Oh, well, Mary Lou is feeding me real good, but anyway, but I feel real good. I'm getting good doctor's reports. How about your shoulder and everything too?
Yeah, it's healed up. I mean, it went into surgery September 2 years ago, so it's fully healed. You can hear me okay, can't you?
Yes, sir, I can. You're looking good, and it's such a welcome honor to hear from you and to be part of this, buddy.
Well, I thought, well, I need to get you on here just because I want to hear from you and understand some more things about Brookings. And we go way back to the. You've got a lot of stories to share, just how we met and stuff like that at the bowling lanes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm just anything that I can help you with. Always, you know that. But yeah, and Mary Lou and I've been reminiscing a lot of the stories, and seem like one builds on the other.
Yeah. What? How you been lately? You're still in Georgia now?
I'm in Camilla, Georgia. I've got a place that we're trying to sell up in Brownwood, and I was hoping to get some feedback on an offer of it today. And Danny, we've tried time and time again to think about getting up to Kentucky. And my daughter went to Lexington, and she said, "Dad, Lexington has changed." I said, "Well, yeah. How long have you been gone?" And she said, "It's crowded now." I said, "Yeah, it's a booming town. The economy's good, and just a lot of things going on." So I don't know. We always hope to get back up there, but looks like we're being in Georgia for a while.
Well, this technology here allows us to be almost like in the same room together.
Yes, that's right. And Mary Lou said, "How are y'all connecting?" I said, "Something called Zoom, I think." And I said, "It's all new to me, but I'm just following Danny's lead."
Yeah, it's something new to me actually too, John. I don't play around with this too much, but so I hope this thing works.
Okay, well, let's give it a try, buddy.
Yeah, and anyway,
Can
tell
you see
me.
me okay, or do I need to adjust anything?
No, I can see you fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just tell me how you got started and what's your history with like Adolph Rupp and Brookings Chili, the story. All of us probably have a story with Brookings, you know?
Yes, be glad to. I'm really grateful and honored to be a part of the process with Brookings Chili. And I used to go there often, as you and a lot of other people did over the years. And so one day I was sitting there talking to Myra Brooking, and Harold had passed away. And I said, "Myra, what do you got plans to do with the chili now?" She says, "Well, I'm getting too old to run it," but said, "I've sold it to Super America," and said they're going to sell it in their stores. I said, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea." I said, "Well, if something doesn't work out, come see me. So one day I was out on Old Frankfort Pike at Good Old Days Barbecue, and here comes Myra in walking with an oxygen bottle. I said, "Good morning, Myra." And she said, "You still want that chili?" And she set her oxygen bottle down. I said, "You know I do."
Uh-huh.
So we didn't even, I said, "What do you want for it?" And she said, "Let me think about it." So I said, "Whatever it is, that'd be fine. So I bought it, and her attorney drafted an agreement, and we went and sat down and talked and everything. And she said, "John, I never got a penny out of them." And I said, "Well, okay." I said, "I'll try to carry on the legacy and just thank you for remembering me. And good to see you, Myra." And she says, "You come over next week," and says, "Me and Tina will tell you how to make that chili." And I said, "That sounds like a great idea." So Holly Hanna happened to be in the restaurant that day, and Holly's a beautiful lady. Has got the most wonderful smile in Lexington, Kentucky, probably the state of Kentucky. So Holly and I went over to see Myra and Tina. So we got over there, and says, Myra started telling us how to make the chili. And Tina says, "No, you don't make it that way." And Myra says, "Oh, yes, we do." Now keep in mind, Myra is holding a oxygen bottle, and little Tina, who was her black maid, who'd been with her for gosh knows how many years, weighed about 80 pounds, dripping wet. And she said, "Myra, this is the way you make that chili." Myra says, "No, Tina, this is the way we make that chili." So Holly and I just sitting there kind of smiling at each other and saying, wondering where this is going to end at,
Yeah.
So anyway, we left there just kind of laughing and enjoying the two and everything and their conversation. Because both of them were very protective of the recipe the way as they knew it.
Yeah.
So, and years later, I don't think it was well, it wasn't years later, but a short time later, Myra died, and then Tina died about 3 days after her. They loved each other so much. I think a lot of people said was because they were heartbroken. But boy, when they sure was, didn't mind expressing their opinions on Brooking's chili. And everybody that I know in their early days were very protective and certainly contributed to the eventual process of making Brooking's. Now, I guess Danny has been in business since 1936, some 89 to 90 years. That is unreal.
Yeah. So you were doing this when you were involved in the Good Old Days barbecue place, which my friend Joe Wilson used to go down to your place there. And
that's right. Yeah, Joe. Yeah. Well, I remember Joe. He was a good customer and everything. Absolutely. Yes. He was out there at your bowling lanes and everything. We always looked forward to, we had a lot of real good, faithful customers that would come in all the time, and they always willing to share a story. And I told Mary Lou, I said, that of all the things, that's one thing I miss. You never knew who was going to walk through those doors at Good Old Days.
Yeah. And then you did that for a while, and then that closed down, and then you got involved in another venture, which became eventually Blue Door Barbecue. They took that over. Or you started a barbecue place here over on National Avenue that was really good. I remember eating there. That's where I ran into you again.
On Walton Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was called Mary Lou's Barbecue. Yeah. We had been flooded 5 times at Good Old Days on Old Frankfort Pike. And I just hate to think what the recent floods might have done out there too. I know Kentucky as a whole state was really flooded from east to west,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we went down to Walton Avenue, and I was kind of directed to that. I was over there one day, and I said, today I'm going to go out and find a barbecue place. I said, the Lord is going to lead me, and it's going to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, and I just didn't know where I was going, but I ended up on Walton Avenue at an old shoe repair place.
Yeah, that's a neat old building that was.
Yeah, it was. And so I said, well, this is it. Thank you, Lord. This is it. So I went over there, and I went in to see my friend in there. I'm trying to think what his name was. He'd been there for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you mind renting that place to me next door? He said, okay. I said, what you going to do with it? I was thinking about putting a little barbecue place in there. I said, you think that'll work? And he said, yeah, I believe that would work okay. So anyway, that's what I did. And I started it. And a lot of my old customers came back and everything. And I had my old cook, Juan Ignacius Gomez, there with me. And me and Mary Lou we were just thankful to be there. And it all turned out real good, and we did a lot of caterings out of there, and did the last one we did. We decided, we were going to go to Florida, and the last catering we did with Link Belt, we bought a house and a business in Florida from one catering. So yes, it was very good to us, and we're thankful to sell that to Blue Door Barbecue, which I understand now is over on National Avenue and doing real well.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd like to hear a little bit about how you knew of Adolph Rupp, possibly if you feel comfortable about that, or, how that all came to be, and why did he like the chili so much?
Well, yes. Coach Rupp was a mentor, which I should say. Danny, I was a young kid. I think about 11 or 12 years old at the time. My mother and I had just moved up from Williamsburg, Kentucky, and I got in trouble with the law. And I guess they knew right away who it was because I was kind of playing getaway from the law in my little baseball uniform, and I had my number on the back, so it wasn't no doubt who it was, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was a gentleman there in the south. I played up in Castlewood Park for the Lookouts, and there was a gentleman that we played against, Sonny Hutchison, and the team down in the South League, and he was a juvenile officer, and he said, I know John. Said, we're going to help him, and said, we're going to get him out of this. He's a young kid. His mother's working 2 or 3 jobs. So he said, I think I got just the guy that'll help him through Big Brothers of Lexington, Kentucky. And he says, we're going to have Adolph Rupp become your big brother. Would you mind that? And I said, would I mind that? Oh, Danny.
Huh.
I was so touched.
Yeah. That's amazing. You got to know him personally really well.
Well, I didn't get to, as anybody, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him or anything. He was busy, but he certainly donated his time to Big Brothers and to me. And, and it kind of, a lot of times, right after that, not too long after that, my mother got real sick and we moved to Miami. But anyway, Herky Rupp used to tell me, John, would you talk about my father sometime? I said, I'd be happy to, because I knew him, and he started me. It was a life-changing, situation, and him helping me to get out of that. And I always was so thankful and grateful, and I went on. I never broke the law again in my life, Danny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it worked. It worked, and I just wish he could have seen what, years later, going on to school, and I got my master's degree. I become a football coach at Western Kentucky University, and then all that, I could contribute back to Coach Rupp in their very early days. They helped me at a crucial time in my life.
What year would that have been? Somewhere in the 50s or?
That would have been, let's see, I was born in 1945, so I was about 11, 12 years old at the time. So you do the math, in mid 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you would see, I guess he liked the chili and he frequented the establishment.
Yes, about 20 years. And, he had his own private, little booth right there that he sat in all the time. He loved chili because they were down on Woodland and Euclid there, not too far from Memorial Coliseum. So it was just a short distance that Coach Rupp and Harry Lancaster and all of them could walk down from Memorial Coliseum and have a bowl of chili. And they always looked forward to seeing him coming. And anybody who was in there, kind of, if they were sitting in that booth, they got out of the booth.
So it's kind of a hot spot and a place where he would just go in there and slide in and get him a bowl of chili and talk to people.
He loved chili. And we're glad that he did, because it kind of became the cornerstone, the benchmark for making Brookings chili be a business survivor for 89 years. Everybody, and he proclaimed that the best chili in the bluegrass, because he ate it every day. We always said, well, Coach, did that help you win any basketball games?
Yeah, well, he won a lot of those.
He certainly did.
While he was eating the chili.
Absolutely. And he was, I thought the world of him. And I always told Herky that. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Herky Rupp, who was quite a gentleman in his own right, and Fawn and Chip and the family. And he was always real helpful to me to promote Brookings chili. And I always, my real goal was to get Brookings chili in Rupp Arena. It never happened, but that was my goal.
That was a pretty involved endeavor to try to do that, as I recall you telling me one time. It was like a lot of financial money up front, and then you had to get in the business of cooking it and preparing it right.
Yeah, it was. I had a handshake agreement when they had the Kentucky Basketball Museum. We donated Coach Rupp's booth to the museum, and there was a certain place there where they, recognized Brookings chili and Coach Rupp and everything. And we had a handshake agreement if we donated the booth to go into Rupp Arena. And Wah Jones, who was a frequent customer of mine for over the years, and Jerry Hale came down, and we had pictures made. And Wah Jones, was so helpful and so kind and everything. And so anyway, we had meetings about that, and but it just never took place. I think
Yeah.
it was a lot of money to get in there, and we didn't have the money, but we had the chili.
Yeah. Well, you did take that chili and started putting it in other locations around the state. And then it kind of tapered back when you moved, I think, right?
Yes, we had the chili, and we need to give a lot of thanks to a lot of people. We started out with Bob Sloan with Sloan's Markets, who is over there, was replaced where Critchfield Meats is today. And Critchfield Meat was real helpful to us, and Liquor Barn and Brooks Meats up in Walton. And we just had a number of people that wanted to sell the chili. And thanks to you, Danny, and thanks to all those retailers, that's still active and ongoing today,
Yeah. Well, that's good. We're going to hopefully get it in the markets here coming up soon. I've got lined up with a company in Louisville that manufactured it in a larger amount so that we could then not be held up with just making a little bit of it.
Yes.
And so then let's see, we sell it here at the bowling lanes. When I reached out to you back during COVID,
Yes.
when we were closed, and I was like thinking we need to sell food in here. And I remember I want to sell a good recipe. I want to stick with things that people can identify with. And so I said, I'm going to call John up and see what's going on with this Brookings chili, because I remember it and I wanted to be able to sell it here. And I wanted to find out from you how to do that. And you filled me in and we reached an agreement. And so now we're doing what you did, hopefully, but we're getting there. In other words, it's taken a little longer than I thought.
Well, you've certainly made a major commitment, and thanks to you, and I can't tell you how grateful that everyone that I've been associated with in the Brookings family and myself personally, that you've been able to carry it to the next level. And I see nothing but just everything is going to be, the success is going to be, everything that you hope it to be right there through your efforts, Danny. And we're just so thankful for you and what you've made as a way of a commitment.
Well, I grew up going to the restaurant, from time to time. I guess it closed in 1991. And so I still was there all the time, different times. I took my friends there and stuff. And so I think any UK alumni that went to school there between 1990 and earlier can identify with it. Now, the newer generation might not even know what it is, but it's just a classic chili that has a lot of history here in town. And I'm trying to think of some other things that people might have questions about or try to understand about it. They've had some famous people go in there. I located an old video of Al McGuire in there one time.
Yes, during the Final Four or something. Yeah.
And I'm going to probably explain to the KSR radio guys. They have a bowling league out here. I'm going to explain to those guys that this chili is a pretty big deal. I'd like to get Coach Pope onto it, but we'll go there as we need to and however it needs to happen. But mainly, I'm glad that you were able to come on here and talk to us a little bit about it. Trying to think of some other things maybe that you might think of, that you had some loyal customers that you passed along to me that buy the chili around the country. They're like in some of them in Florida and different places, and they're still on the list.
Well, good. And you even, my daughter in Texas, as you know, just got some the other day, and she's going to have a derby party and have Brookings chili with it. And so, it's just something that's withstood the test of time. Danny, with so much competition out there today, and just everything is evolving and a lot of it financially issues that come up in the hospitality business today. And to survive 89 years in the business is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so thankful that you came along, Danny, and we were able to make the transfer over to you with your leadership. And I thank Mary Lou every day. When we talk about Brookings Chili, your name always comes into the conversation.
Well, it wouldn't be here without you. You got to remember that. You were the one that started the foundation of it. And then, of course, Mr. Brooking, what about him? He was an older gentleman cooking chili up to his last day, and he was like 90-something years old, wasn't he? What was he like?
He was an inspiration. I have a picture of him at 93 years old in a white shirt and tie and stirring a pot of chili. And as I understand, with all the years of standing on his feet and everything, his legs were really in bad, and they were bleeding oftentimes and everything. But he still, that was his life of making chili, and he was sitting there in the early 90s and everything, still making chili.
And he made his living doing that and did really well with it, so to speak, and put some kids through college just by making this chili, right?
Absolutely. And Dick Brooking, who I know real well, he was, all of them were real successful. One of them even became, and I can't recall his one name right now, but I've been to his home up in Delaware, was a Harvard educated attorney, went to Oxford. And then Dick Brooking was with the tobacco industry over in Turkey, and they still had their same father's traits. Every shirt in that closet, I remember Dick Brooking showing me, were 2 fingers apart. It's like military style. And it was just, and they sure, were a very tight family. And Dorothy Brooking was just a real sweetheart. And it all goes back to Mr. Brooking himself and what he instilled in them and as a work ethic.
Well, I think I got that when I would go there and eat, and I'm sure that anybody else that went to the restaurant would experience that as well. Just the consistency and the level of service, and maybe just like this is just a good old establishment that you could go into. And back in those days, you had other restaurants around, like the Saratoga was real popular. And
oh yes, we all miss the Saratoga. Yes, the Mims family. I used to go there often, as you did too, probably. And those were Lexington traditions.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how long we would have to talk here. It's kind of an unlimited window of time here, but we've been going for a little over 20 minutes, and we can keep going, or we can talk about some other things.
You're the leader, buddy. You're the leader.
What do you got coming up here this summer? You got any plans to travel, or are you staying right in there?
Well, I'm still. I've got a release from my doctor on I don't have to go back for 6 months after the stroke, and I'm in therapy right now on my legs, my old football injuries, and but we're hoping to get back up there. Mary Lou and I and my daughter came to Lexington to buy a house, so we're always got it in the mix here of what to do, but it's a big step when you're approaching to 80 years old to make another move and everything. So we'll have to give more thought to it, but we're Kentucky people. And I look at the Lexington Herald every day. I keep up with the news, and, I keep up with friends up there. And so, we hope that it'll happen, but it's getting less and less possible all the time.
Well, thanks to this technology, we're able to bring you right in here with us, and we'll.
I need to get a big screen TV, Danny, and put you right in here for morning breakfast and lunches with chili luncheons and everything.
Yeah. There were some other menu items on there that they used to serve. I noticed in the signage of the place, like they had pork tenderloin sandwiches and chili burgers and all that kind of stuff. But it was the chili that kind of everybody went there for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Gus and Sonny was was a fixture up there, and there was a waitress had been there for years too. I don't recall her name right at the time, but they had some real characters in there too, and and it was just it's just one of those things out of a storybook situation, and everybody just gravitated to that, and it's that's part of of what you hope to accomplish, a good vibe like that in a restaurant, and certainly Brookings was a pace setter in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Well, man, I really appreciate keeping up your friendship here and staying in touch with you. We exchange emails a few times a year, and
Yes,
you were just up here maybe, seemed like about 3 months ago you drove through.
yes, and we'll certainly, every time we come up there, Danny, we'll give you a heads up, and we'll stop by to check up on everything, and it's just again, you're looking great, and it's good to hearing from you, and thank you so much for honor me, where we can sit here and talk about a subject that we both love in Brookings Chili.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, good talking to you. And I'll send you a copy of this when I get it, I guess, offline and onto a situation where you can easily access it.
Okay. All right. Good talking to you.
You too. Take
Best,
care, John.
take care. Best always.
All right. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.